Hello, my name is Michael Lambert. Now, people say that my videos are sometimes a bit gloomy, a bit pessimistic, and they say, why don't I, instead of complaining all the time, why don't I come up with some suggestions for how things might be improved? And so that's what I thought I'd do today. I'm going to give you a list of about 15 or 20 suggestions that I think would make things better. Before I do that, though, if you haven't already subscribed, I really would appreciate it if you do so. I'm trying to get to 1 million subscriptions, and I just need another 956,000, and I'll be there. So if you haven't already subscribed, I'd appreciate if you do so, if you approve of what I have to say. Now, you will be happy to know that I shall not be mentioning the word Brexit in this video. So these are my suggestions on how things should be improved. I think, first of all, we should get rid of first past the post. It's an absurd system. It's not at all democratic. It's a system whereby, for example, Labour got 38.7% of the votes, and they ended up with 63.2% of the seats in Parliament. And small parties like Reform, who I'm certainly not in favour of encouraging or helping in any way whatsoever, but Reform got 14.3% of the vote. That's what a third of what Labour got, and they ended up with 5 seats. Well, that isn't really fair, and I think we should, as soon as possible, have some form of proportional representation. Unfortunately, because whenever a government gets in, the Prime Minister realises that first past the post has helped, and they benefited from it, and so they then kind of lose enthusiasm for any change. So I don't suppose there's going to be any change. Second thing is, I think we should get rid of the House of Lords and replace it with an elected chamber. It is really absurd if you look at the House of Lords. All these people, people who've been rewarded for being successful, being lucky in life, and when you've got people like bishops, what are bishops doing in the House of Lords? What's Lord Lebedev of Siberia doing in the House of Lords? And Charlotte Owen. I mean, they're just mates of Boris Johnson, and every Prime Minister, when he retires, he produces a list of people he wants to be elevated, and it's always people from their own party, and it's just an absurdity. You would never ever invent something such as the House of Lords. Get rid of it altogether and have an elected second chamber. I'd also want to really trim down the honours system. I think if people do really good works, they do charity and they sacrifice a lot for others, I think they deserve to be rewarded. But I think people who are just successful in life, as I say, if you're successful in life, you've got to have a lot of luck. I mean, everything's luck really, but if you've been lucky in life, to then be rewarded on top for your luck seems a bit ridiculous. I mean, why not knight or make lords of lottery winners? I mean, it's ridiculous, and so I think I'd do away with most of the honour system. I think I'd also want to do something about the Palace of Westminster. I think it's an absurd building. It's completely out of date. It's said that they're going to spend billions, literally billions and billions, tens of billions, I believe, over many decades in refurbishing the whole building. Well, I would say, in the first place, you could probably knock it all down and rebuild it for less than they're planning to spend, but build another Parliament building somewhere else with a big semicircular chamber like everybody else has, instead of the absurdity we've got with the House of Commons, where you've got a little room where there aren't enough seats for all the MPs, so you end up with popular debates. There are 100 people perhaps stood up all around the sides and the back and in the ends and so on, and you get this confrontation all the time where people are shouting across the chamber. We all see Prime Minister's questions, and it's quite entertaining, but it's just ridiculous. And I think the whole world looks at it and thinks, what a crazy system. And things like voting, where everybody has to traipse out and go through one lobby or the other, and then it's all written down on a bit of paper and then read out. It's absurd. I mean, everybody else has an electronic voting system, saves time, more efficient, and you don't make any mistakes. So I think the whole House of Commons needs to be moved somewhere else and into a new purpose-built building. I think one thing I would do, it's always been the case in Parliament that you don't lie. It's really, really serious, been thoroughly frowned upon. But Boris Johnson changed all that because he just came in and lied all the time because he's a compulsive liar, and I think that degraded Parliament quite a lot. And I think I would I want to reverse that, and I think I'd want much more serious sanctions than just being told off by the Speaker. I think I'd make it a criminal offence to lie in Parliament, to knowingly lie in Parliament, and have very, very severe penalties for doing so. I think I'm not sure about the royal family. I mean, I don't mind having a king and queen if they don't cost us too much money and they're a big tourist attraction. But I think beyond that one's really looking at very seriously. I think when it was revealed recently as to how much money they're charging in rent for properties they own, where they're charging every time a lifeboat goes across a beach, and they're charging to store ambulances and so on, that's pretty sick. And I'd want to have a really, really good a good look at the royal family and how much they're costing us, and I'd want to cut that right back. Now, as far as the press is concerned, I think I would make it a law that no one who owned more than 10% of any national newspaper should be allowed to do so unless they're resident and paying taxes in this country. And I think I would actually force newspaper owners, foreign-based newspaper owners, to sell, because we have this absurd situation now where newspapers, a handful of newspapers have enormous influence, and you've got Rothermere living as a tax exile, and even the Daily Mail doesn't pay any tax in the UK. It's based in somewhere in the Caribbean and a tax haven, and you've got Rupert Murdoch, and you see Prime Minister after Prime Minister kowtowing to him and asking for his favours and hoping that he'll print nice stories about them or that he'll back them. It's absolutely absurd. So I would definitely want to put an end to all that, and I think that actually perpetuates this sort of corruption that we've got so much in public life at the moment. I would also make it a criminal offence punishable by imprisonment for any newspaper to knowingly print any story that they know to be untrue. I think we all know of instances where newspapers go beyond the limit and print stuff which isn't true. It shouldn't be allowed. And as far as utilities are concerned, I would prohibit any foreign ownership of any utility. I think the fact that we've seen it all, the scandals with water particularly, and how foreign-based owners of utilities are taking so much money out, and they're all in trouble now. They're all struggling with paying the highest gas and electricity prices, and there's very little investment. So no, if you're not based in the UK and you're not British, you can't buy our utilities, can't own shares of the utilities, and I make those that already own them to force them to sell them. I think I'd also want to have a look at CEOs' pay. I think we see so often where organisations, it's not just companies, it's also local authorities and hospitals and all sorts, where the chief executive is on hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, and the average worker is getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. I think I would have, I would make it obligatory for every big organisation, a big company, to publish the average salary of all employees within their organisation, and I would have a limit as to how many multiples of that average any CEO might earn. Now, as far as tax evasion and money laundering is concerned, we all know that the UK has become London particularly has become the world centre of money laundering, and I think I'd be in favour of a massive increase in HMRC resources, because they don't have the resources to go after people now, and people know that they can come to the UK and launder money, and it's very, very easy. I mean, I personally know of people who've come here and set up whole strings of companies, paid virtually no tax, and just laundered money, and it's just easy, and it's not good having a reputation of being the money laundering capital of the world. I think also I'd have a look at closing the or doing something about the tax havens. The fact that you can hide your money and where it came from in British tax havens. I mean, we have an awful lot of tax havens, and the fact that there are drug dealers and criminals and corrupt rulers all around the world, they can all put their money in the Cayman Islands or in the Isle of Man or Jersey or Guernsey or wherever. It's absurd, and it makes it so difficult to chase anybody for tax and to find out what's going on in so many businesses. I mean, we had the instance of Nadim Zahawi, who forgot that he hadn't paid £3.5 million in capital gains tax on an investment which was in a tax haven of Gibraltar. It's a rotten system. I mean, I don't know how you deal with it. It's probably impossible, and it's certainly very difficult. But I think it really needs looking at, because I think a lot of people are just laughing at the tax system, and it's so easy. And we have this whole industry serving the whole world, finding ways of evading tax. I think also on the subject of tax evasion and hiding money, so many properties in central London, private properties, are owned by foreigners, and nobody knows who owns them because they belong to a company that's registered in the Cayman Islands, and that company is owned by a company registered in the Isle of Man, that's owned by a company which is registered in the British Virgin Islands, and nobody can ever trace the ownership of so many of these places. I think every single property, particularly over about, say £1 million or whatever, should have an individual as the declared owner, and that owner should be able to, if necessary, should be able to prove where they got the money from to buy that property. I think the fact that foreigners can come and hide their money in property in London is ridiculous. And I think also on the subject of foreigners buying property in London, there are so many places that are empty. We have a terrible housing shortage, and I mentioned once before, I have a friend who lives opposite a row of houses, very nice terrace houses. There are 24 of them there, and he's told me from time to time he's never seen lights on in more than 2 of those houses, and I think recently he said that a third one was lit up. Now, I happened to just, when I visited him last time, I popped in and had a word with the security. There's 24-hour security there. These houses cost around £10 to £12 million each. And I had a chat with the security man. He said, no, he said, there's hardly anybody here. They said they all live abroad. Well, it's not really right, is it? I mean, buying houses just to keep your money safe, when, as I say, we've got such a shortage of housing. It's like all these houses in Cornwall where people buy houses that very often cost more than £1 million, and they go there for a fortnight in the summer. The rest of the year they're empty. It simply isn't right. And what they say is they in Cornwall they're going to double the council tax. Well, in one particular town I looked at, I think the council tax was about £3,800 for £1 million houses. They're all £1 million houses, and they're going to double that to £6,000. Well, if you've got a house worth £1 million which you hardly ever use, which is appreciating at hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, what's another £3,000 in council tax? It's absolutely nothing. The other thing concerning property is that I would have every property in the country revalued and completely change the council tax regime. We have a situation now whereby in the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, probably the richest borough in the country, the top rate council tax is £3,848 a year. Now, not far from Harrods, there's a block of flats, quite a famous block of flats. It's at the bottom of Millionaires Row, and one of the flats is on sale at the moment for £175 million. Now they're paying £3,843 a year in council tax. That isn't right. In Farage's constituency in Clacton, the top rate for most expensive property, I don't suppose there are many of them there, but the top rate in Clacton is 4,100. So in Clacton, where I suppose you're not going to pay more than £1.5 million for a house at the top of the end of the market, you're paying more or less the same as somebody who's got a flat worth 175 million. That is absurd. Now, on a few other smaller points that I think need attention, I think it's important to start training and teaching in schools at a very early age, IT, and particularly with AI, artificial intelligence advancing so fast. I think children growing up now need to be learning as quickly as possible. I think also in schools I'd want to teach a certain amount of things like politics, very briefly politics and economics. I think children should come out of school at least knowing what tax is for. I'm not saying you should spend a lot of time on it, but I think those sort of things. I think a lot of people have got absolutely no idea how the world works and should do. I would want to immediately repeal the Public Order Act. I think we're getting to a stage now where it's getting quite dangerous. The police have such power that they can arrest you if you write a tweet they don't approve of, or if you're protesting somewhere, peacefully protesting, and the police don't like what you're saying, they can come and arrest you. I think the police have too much power in that respect, and I think the Public Order Act, which Starmer doesn't want to, he doesn't want to repeal it because he wants to wait and see how it beds down. It was enacted 18 months ago or so. Certainly I would get rid of that. And so that's about it, really. I mean, those are just a few things that I've thought of in the last couple of days, but there's plenty more, and that's without really talking about politics. One last thing, actually, I did think of was that the government are trying to encourage certain businesses. They're talking about going for growth all the time. Well, there are particular businesses, some are more valuable than others, and businesses that are manufacturing, businesses that are exporting. I think they should have beneficial tax rates. I think it seems perfectly sensible to have lower rates of corporation tax for firms that are doing what is in the more interest of the country than perhaps other firms. And I think this is something that they do in Ireland. I believe so, anyway. But anyhow, those are just a few thoughts. I think probably more positive than my general contribution, but I don't suppose much of what I've talked about will happen. Too many vested interests, there's too many people making money, too many people are just concerned about their own wealth and influence and so on. But anyway, as I say, if you haven't already subscribed, I'd be grateful if you do so. And if you watch this far, thank you very much indeed. And until next time, bye for now.